Hello everybody, once again welcome back to another update Roundup. This one is part 3. Will we get it all done in one episode? Who really knows, but let's jump right into it and get started. In part 2 of the update Roundup, I went over all the changes to the abilities, and these were fun to show off and try different things with. This one is going to be all about the talents and expertises. Like I've said before, talents are things that are always active. You don't have to trigger them. They just always help you. And expertise are the same, but even better. Expertise are also basically permanent, and we went over that in part 2. Talents, however, can be pretty easily reset, just like the abilities. And they both use skill points in order to take. So our talent menu here looks pretty much the same, and honestly there is a lot of overlap. We've seen this kind of notation before, which basically means you can take this talent or this talent, but not both of them at the same time. And there are several new ones over here. But this notation with these boxes is completely new. So we're going to dive right into those first. The gist here with these boxes is like it says here. It's a group of talents, and you can have a maximum amount of skill points that can be spent in that group. In the Masteries group, you can spend 10 skill points among these 4 talents. And it is important to note that these are skill points, not levels. You might look at this and go, okay, there's 10 here, I can do 5 and 5, and no, because these each one take 2 skill points in order to progress. And it happens to be the same for all of these, so the bottom line is you can max out one of these masteries if you put all of your available points into it. Now we've had Arthropod Mastery, Undead Mastery, and Illager Mastery in the previous versions. Illagers didn't really exist as a mob, so this one was completely wasted, but now they do, and there is a value in taking this mastery. But they've also added the Nether Mastery as a new mastery, and this one goes towards Piglins. Now, masteries all function in about the same way. You get a damage bonus to any mobs that you encounter of that type. Undead, spiders, illagers, or piglins. To be quite honest though, I really don't see much value in masteries. Maybe somebody can tell me of a good situation, but in 90% of the builds out there, I really don't think it matters. It might matter if you know you're going into a specific type of vault, but that is a lot of skill points to designate for one specific area that'll be useful for maybe one type of vault. The next grouping that we have is the Lucky Hit group, and the Fatal Strike from before has been moved into Lucky Hit. Now, Fatal Strike has been completely revamped in general, and Lucky Hit is a new generalized mechanic that has come from it. So basically you get lucky hit chance from other things, and when a lucky hit does happen, if you put any points into any of these groups, then it triggers when that lucky hit happens. So Fatal Strike gives you a lot of extra damage when you get a lucky hit. Mana Steal, on the other hand, refills part of your mana when you get a lucky hit. Life Leech, as expected, this refills your health when you get a lucky hit. And Cleave causes your damage to duplicate in a 5x5 area when you get that lucky hit. So you don't have to have chaining on one of your weapons if instead you bump up the lucky hit chance and go for a Cleave Lucky Hit Mastery. Just like the other group before, these all cost 2 per level and with a maximum of 6 total. So again, you can max out one of these talents within this group. But just like in the last version, it's important to note that you need to have both a lucky hit chance and a talent that utilizes lucky hit in order for something to happen. So my sword here does not have a lucky hit chance, nor does any of the armor that I have here. So that means if I put any points into this lucky hit, nothing will happen because I'm never generating any lucky hits. Looking at my stats right here, you can see I have a 0% lucky hit chance. And so while these talents can be very beneficial, you really have to make sure that you've got some means of triggering the lucky hit in order to actually take advantage of it. The last grouping over here is for Javelin-related enchantments, and these are actually quite interesting. I mean, first off, the Javelin ability is brand new and offers a lot of interesting variations to it. But add to that, you've got these Javelin enchantments in a talent group that can even further diversify or specialize your use of Javelins. Now, the first one is Throw Power, and while you may think that this does more damage, it does in fact not. Instead, it allows your Javelin to go more distance. Okay, so to help me demonstrate this, I've made myself a nice big bullseye. And I can go ahead and throw a javelin, and I can make it over there. but I need a pretty good arc, right? I'm aiming pretty high in order to be able to get there. Let's put a few points into throw power though and see what a difference it makes. So with throw power maxed out, yeah, boy, that's traveling in a straight line practically. There is no arc at all on my Javelin. So you're going to go a lot farther and have a lot more accuracy at distance with your throw power maximized. Now, if you really want more damage, the damage talent is the right one. It'll get up to 80% more damage if you put all your skill points into it. So let's see what it does without any damage boost into our target dummy friends here. Well, again, it helps to hold my sword. There we go, 17.2. And now with the damage maxed out, yep, 34.4. That's a lot more. Now, of course, you had to spend 8 skill points to get there, but if you want to go with the distance type build for any reason, yeah, that's a really good way to go. The next talent, though, can be really, really interesting, and it's what makes this entire group very interesting. So we saw that these two took 8 points to max them out, but you're allowed 10 points in this group. And this one is an odd number of 3 points in the group. So this is where the number of skill points and not levels really makes a big difference here. You can only get 1 level in conduct, but the really cool thing is that it makes your Javelin transfer on-hit effects, excluding lucky hit, but that could include clouds, stunning, and shocking. And this dovetails into an explanation about a mechanic change that I kind of missed in the first video. I talked about on-hit effects in the last video with regard to one of the totem powers and how it can transfer the on-hit effects. But the really important part of it is that on-hit effects only happen with a normal swing, meaning if you do a jump crit on something, you do not get any on-hit effects. And the sweeping edge and the chaining that I've got on this sword are demonstrating that we're getting the on-hit effect when I do a normal swing, but when I do a crit jump, there are no other damages to anything else, meaning the chaining didn't trigger. It's a really subtle change, but it makes you decide whether you want to have the on-hit effects or you want to have the extra damage of a critical hit. To a certain extent, it gives you flexibility, but it takes away that critical hit on-hit effect combination that we could have had in previous updates. But back to the talent here, this could be really useful if you're going for some kind of build that utilizes one of these effects that comes from an on-hit effect. Again, not including Lucky Strike. The last talent we have here is Ethereal, and as it says, there will be a chance that your Javelin takes no mana to throw. Now, mana is always a concern, so you really can't go wrong with some Ethereal. But again, this is one of the things that makes this grouping interesting. You can only put a total of 3 points into this talent. So this is one of those where you're really going to be picking and choosing some of this, some of this, some of this, and going with conduct, for instance, and mixing and matching these different talents within the group. Lucky Hit, I think, also could benefit from mixing and matching, but I really don't believe there's a whole lot of benefit from mixing and matching of the masteries. Nevertheless, these groupings make it possible to do it, and you can come up with a practically infinite number of combinations of skills that you wanted to take, but again, with some limitation to overall how deep you wanted to go into one of them. Now, heading back up to the rest of the talents up here in this group, many of them are unchanged. Stone Skin, Strength, Haste, Speed, they're all the same as they were before. Last Stand and Berserking, Depleted, and Methodical, again, are the same as before. But there are 6 new talents that can have an interesting impact to your combat style and how to specialize one way or the other. As noted before, you can only take one of these 2. It's not like you can put some points into this one and some points into this one. The moment you put 1 point into one of them, the other one will be locked out. But Nucleus and Daze both work on the stun effect. Nucleus says that if you kill a stunned mob, you have a chance of causing a Nova of your level. This talent requires levels in the ability Nova. And of course, the more points you put into it, the higher the chance. Daze, on the other hand, says you will increase the damage if you attack a mob that has been stunned. Again, both of these work on the stunned effect that can be applied to some mobs. And it's the shell ability that gives you a chance to stun mobs, as well as sometimes your weapon. Blizzard and Frostbite both operate with a similar synergy. Say that 5 times fast. Alright, so with Blizzard, if you hit a slowed mob, you have a chance of causing a Frost Nova. Now, the Frost Nova you create is based on the amount of points you put into this, and you do not have to have levels in the Frost Nova ability in order to do this. Frostbite, on the other hand, says if you hit a slowed mob, they have a chance of getting frostbitten. And then if you hit them again once they're frostbitten, they will die instantly, regardless of the amount of health they have left. It's a small chance, but it's still a chance. And an instant kill for a chance can be pretty valuable. And the slowed effect comes from the ice armor specialization of Empower, or of course, a weapon. The next group is Blight and Toxic Reaction, both of which operate on mobs affected by poison. Now, Blight applies a weakness effect if you hit a mob that has been poisoned, and that weakness reduces their damage. And it can be quite a significant damage reduction and helping quite a bit. Toxic Reaction, however, says killing a mob that's affected by poison causes a poison nova. It does require you to have levels of nova and the poison specialization, but the effect can chain indefinitely. So done right, you can get a big old chain reaction with a bunch of poison happening to all of the mobs at once, essentially clearing the room of any alive mobs. And so the nova with the poison specialization is going to be your best friend if you want to go with that type of build. And of course, a weapon with a poison effect on it can work as well. The last four fall into two main categories. Sorcery and Witchery are very similar. Sorcery gives you extra mana regeneration if you have full health, and Witchery gives you extra soul chance if you're at full mana. You don't have to choose between which one of these, and both of them can be very, very useful. The other pair, Prudent and Alchemist, both operate on the new potions and vials. Prudent says that when you drink a vault potion, it might not consume a charge, maxing at 40%. Alchemist, on the other hand, will extend the duration of the effects that you get while drinking a vault potion with at least one modifier. From my testing previously, the effect is about 30 seconds, so increasing that time by 80% means that the effect will last about a minute, a little less. It's worth noting that the vial, which you can create at any level, has no modifiers to it. In order to get any advanced potions, you have to spend knowledge points into the alchemy knowledge group, and then you can start making potions, mixtures, and brews, which do have modifiers to them. So this alchemist talent is completely useless if you haven't also spent knowledge points into the alchemy branch of knowledges. Well, that might not be strictly true because in a co-op somebody might be able to make you a potion and you might be able to use it. But definitely in a single-player world you need to keep that part in mind. Whew, that was a bit of a speed run, don't you think? I'm really trying to get this all done in one video, and I think we're well on track. But I do really hope that everything is nice and clear, and I'm not cutting the explanations too short. So let's move along to the expertise. Now, generally speaking, expertise are going to be a lot like talents. In fact, many of them were talents before. Specifically, Unbreakable, Bartering, Angel, Artisan, Lucky Altar, and Experienced were talents once before. Artisan was called Blacksmith, but the idea is still generally the same. Angel has been changed pretty significantly though. First, you only need 1 point in order to unlock Angel. And at level 50, that sounds pretty cool. But you do have to craft an Angel block, and it's only good within 64 block radius of that Angel block. And as you can see, the Angel block is pretty expensive, requiring a couple Echo Pogs. Now, Creative Flight is amazing in the overworld, but having a 64 block radius that you're constrained to for it, it means that it's basically intended to help you with your base. Now, it can be extremely helpful with your base, but by the time you're level 50, your base is pretty well built up, oftentimes anyway. So while it has been buffed, it's also been nerfed quite a bit. Another one that's been subtly changed is Lucky Altar. Lucky Altar used to exist, and it gives you the chance that when you put a crystal on your altar, the costs of that crystal will be reduced by 90%. Before Update 9, however, everybody had a 10% chance of getting a Lucky Altar, and that has been removed. So now this Lucky Altar expertise is the only way that you will ever get a Lucky Altar. Now the first two expertise, Infuser and Mystic, are for the crystal crafters out there. Crystal crafting is an incredibly important part of the game for some players, and that is basically tailoring your vault experience to be exactly what you need it to be. So the Infuser gives you a chance of not applying a negative modifier, and with 3 points into it, maxing it out, a 60% chance of avoiding a negative modifier. So what that does is take an infused catalyst like this with a good modifier, meaning wooden, and a random negative modifier, and make it a 60% chance that that random negative modifier will not be applied to the crystal once we put them together in an anvil. So let's pop all three into Infuser and give it a shot. Let's see how well it works. So the preview says we're going to get a random negative, but when we actually do it, no. The infuser kicked in and we didn't get that random negative. Do it again, and again, we did not get that random negative. So yeah, if you're the kind that really likes to craft up your crystals, this one's going to be right up your alley. Mystic also goes hand in hand with crystal crafting, giving you a 40% chance to block crystal instability negatives. Now what does that mean? Well, on this crystal it says we have an instability of 20%, and that means that the next time we change this crystal there will be a 20% chance of something bad happening. And that something bad is either a curse or the crystal becomes unmodifiable. However, with Mystic maxed out at 40%, if that instability triggers, there will be a 40% chance that the bad thing, either being curse or unmodifiable, doesn't actually happen. So with this crystal right here, we have a 20% chance of something bad, but a 40% chance of that being blocked. So a 40% chance of blocking this 20% instability drops it to like a 12% instability, if my math is right, making this expertise go hand in hand with Infuser and very valuable. So let's pop the points in there and keep on crafting. So now with this crystal at 100% instability, we should definitely be getting a curse or something every time. And there, we finally got a curse. Can we get 2? We got 2. How about 3? So there the Mystic clearly interfered and prevented one of the curses. But still, I put 13 catalysts on here, and having only 4 random negatives and 2 curses is pretty darn amazing. I dare say that without these expertise, something like that would not have even been possible before Update 9. At present, there doesn't seem to be any way of knowing whether your expertise actually blocked that bad thing from happening or not. I have a feeling that might get changed in the next patch or somewhere along down the line. Next up is Trinketer, and that is a really straightforward explanation. If you have a trinket in your inventory, each time you go into the vault, it consumes a use. But with Trinketer, there is a chance that you will not consume that use, up to a 30% chance when it's maxed out. Now, trinkets are just incredibly rare, and being able to save them and prevent uses from happening to them through this expertise sounds pretty darn good. At max level, you should be able to extend that trinket's life by about 7 vaults. Now, if it worked in such a way that they actually got a better chance of getting trinkets, well, to me, that would be much more useful. But nevertheless, this is definitely useful if that's part of your playstyle and you have the trinkets. But most likely, this is a late game item. After that, we have Divine, and Divine gives you a base level affinity for all vault gods. Now, that's not the same as favors. Favors are shown up here. When you complete one of the god altars in the vault, your affinity is checked to see if you get a favor from that god. Now, there must be some base percent, because even with 0% added affinity, you can still get a favor. But with an added 45%, it means you're going to be getting a lot more favors a lot more often. And that might ultimately let you get the special pieces of equipment for that god if that's what you're after. It definitely is useful because as you gain more favors from the gods, they help you in the vaults with various stuff. And getting 15 to 45% affinity is a huge boost. That'll take a long time to get if you're just completing these altars in the vault regularly. The next new expertise is Fortunate. And remember, I told you we'd have some way to get Fortune 4? This is it. But you not only are able to get 1 more level of Fortune, you're able to get 2 more. So for the cost of 2 expertise points, you can get up to Fortune 5. Which is great. I don't know anybody that doesn't like more Fortune levels, huh? The only problem is it uses expertise points, which are essentially non-removable. But it seems a fitting place to put it, honestly, so I agree with this one. The last new thing in the expertise is Bounty Hunter, and this is one that I think a lot of people are going to be going after. I know I will. The first one reduces the wait period, like the refresh period, from 24 hours to just 30 minutes. The second reduces a penalty for abandoning a bounty to only 30 minutes from 2 hours. But the third allows you to have 2 active bounties at the same time. And I know for myself, and I think a lot of people, having 2 bounties at the same time is pretty incredible, because bounties can be a really great way to get both stuff and experience for the vaults. Now, so there are some rules about having 2 bounties at the same time active, and I think especially when it comes to the bounties related to completing a vault, only one will get completed if you complete the vault. But still, if you can have one that's a collection and one that's a completion or something like that and have 2 bounties going at the same time, I think the end result is you'll get a lot more bounties, and that will help everybody out. So there we go. It took 3 videos, but we finally made it through the update roundup. And you know what? I hope everything was right on target. Pun intended. And I thank so much for everybody that came back, watched part 2, and now part 3. I do work hard on these, and it means a lot to me to do the best I can. So thanks so much for coming and watching these videos. If you do feel like it's worth a subscribe, I would absolutely appreciate that too. But in the meantime, just remember, be excellent to each other. I'm out.